Welcome once again to Victory Yard and to a very special look at the fight between Mike Tyson and Buster Douglas in February 1990. With us is one of the principals in that bout, Buster Douglas, 1990. Looking back at that fight, you were a 47-1 underdog. What did you think of yourself as going into that fight?
I felt that I was very much deserving of a shot at the title, and I was going to make a great account of it.
Why? Why did you think that when no one else did?
Well, I traveled the journey. I've done all the road work, and leading up to the fight, and I was prepared, and it wasn't something that was just given to me. I had to earn that shot at the title.
Was it harder than you had ever worked getting ready for a fight?
Yes and no. It was harder, because it was my second shot at the title, second opportunity. But the work itself wasn't hard because I wanted it so bad.
Why did you want it so badly at this time?
Just looking at the getting the shot at the title, the first time fighting for the title, I was more or less had a chance or expected to win the title, and coming up short against Tony Tucker. And then coming back, fighting for the title again, I was given no chance at all. And I felt personally that, I was just as good as an opportunity as it was the first time. And I was definitely not going to let that opportunity slip by.
Now when you're in the dressing room before the fight, you're getting ready to be introduced, you're getting ready to make that march. What does a fighter think about at that point?
Well, what's going to happen. Leading up to the fight, there's been times that fights have been postponed, canceled, and I just felt finely tuned and ready to perform, and my biggest thing was not being able to. Something was going to happen for the fight to be postponed.
But at this point now, you know it is going on. You start the walk to the ring in Japan.
That's when I knew it was going on. I knew that it was going to happen, and I felt really good about it, and I knew it was time.
What goes through your mind when you're making that walk?
Well, a lot of things. You're just checking your system, so to speak. You're just filling out the joints, and you're loose, and checking the legs. You just go through a great deal of things.
Do you hear the crowd?
Yes and no. It's in and out. The crowd is. Because your focus is so intense. You know that it's time now.
Many athletes have told me that they perform best when they're afraid. Are you afraid at all at that moment?
Well, I don't know if it's afraid or if it's a natural fear, but it's something that just, to me, it gets you alert. You don't want to take it to where it just totally overwhelms you, but, it just keeps you alert, keeps you, focused to what's going on around you, and you don't let it go no further.
Are there butterflies dancing?
Oh, most definitely, but that's something that is expected, and it's a normal thing. You just don't let it just, the butterflies get so large that they just take you out of the fight. You just float on your inner spirit just floats out, but, it's just something that keeps you alert, and, it's time to get busy.
And now Tyson comes into the ring, and you're confronted by this man who's supposed to be a destroyer. When you first see him in the ring, what do you think?
Well, I know it's on. I know that he comes to do a job, and I came to do a job as well. But then you fall back on your experience, from childhood, from riding in the car, leading up to the preliminary fights, leading up to the big show, listening to my dad tell me, that, you get in there and certain things happen. That's one thing about my father.
He was a fighter.
Right.
Yeah.
And he not only taught me the game of boxing, but he taught me, he educated me on the fight game. And education was how you feel and how things look in the ring once you get inside the ring. And you go through a lot of different things.
When he fought Michael Spinks, you saw that fight. Spinks looked terrified before he went into the ring against Tyson. The fight was over before it began. You had none of that intimidation working against you?
I fought on that card, and I was talking to an individual at the weigh-in, and I told him, I said, well, you're going to see, Michael's going to show you some things in this fight that, shows that he's not as tough as everyone, perceives him to be. And the guy just, shook his head and was, no, it won't be. And it really, I was shocked, but yet I felt confident that, Spinks was going to show a little better. But
and he didn't.
No, he didn't, and I was surprised.
Tyson almost withered him with a look. When you're in the ring, you're looking at each other, and he gives you his stare. What do you think?
Well, again, the bell hasn't rung. Everything looks, a lot larger than it is, and you just don't let it overtake you. It has to be the actual fight where, things start changing. So, beforehand, it's all good. It's just something you go through.
Just before the first round is to begin, you think you're going to win the fight?
I wouldn't say that. I feel that I was going to make a good account of myself. I was going to fight him. I felt confident that I belonged in there. I'm not going to say I walked out knowing that I was going to win, but I felt confident that I deserved a shot. It wasn't anything that was handed down to me. I was maybe looked at as a patsy, but I didn't feel that way. I felt confident in myself that, I deserved to be in there, and that's part of the fight.
We're going to go to the first round now, and Mike Tyson's going to find out very quickly that Buster Douglas belongs in there with him. Round number one, Tyson Douglas, February 1990.
Douglas. For Buster, it's which Buster Douglas has come to fight tonight. We've seen him fight outstandingly in many of his fights. We're just underway here. 10-point must scoring system. 3 judges will score the fight. Larry Rosadio of the United States, Ken Morita of the U.S., and Mr. Uchiha from Japan here. Mike will try to get in and land that big right hand anytime he can. Buster, who's got a pretty good left hand, you see that jab he's trying to hold Mike off. If he's able to hold Mike off, this thing could go a few rounds. If he can't hold Mike off, Mike will dispose of him early. That right hand got through. That's a surprise. And one thing noticeable right away here is that Buster is not backing up, and when he gets in tight, he's not just hanging on to Mike. He's here to fight. Johnny Johnson, his trainer, and J.D. McCauley actually believe that Buster Douglas can win this fight, but golly, how many trainers have we listened to over the years that, I think sometimes we get too close to a fighter.
By this time, he realizes you're not going to go down right away.
Well, he may realize that, but yet he's still pursuing. He just knows in his mind that it's a matter of time. But it wasn't so to be.
The announcers commented right away that they perceived that you were there to fight.
Right. Well, yeah, comparing it to his last 3 or 4 fights where guys are coming in there 1 foot in the ring and 1 foot out. But the first round was an important round. It was very important. It was just establishing that, indeed, that I was there to fight, and that I wasn't just going to, give it up to him.
Did you realize how much bigger you looked next to him?
No, because Mike's a nice-sized guy. He's not as tall, but he's got the width, and his physique is definitely a heavyweight's physique. He's just not as tall as most heavyweights. And then he carries a heavyweight punch.
This is a surprise, I think, right away. You see, again, the key, and keep watching for this, whether Buster can hold him off with the left hand, and what nobody else has been able to do, can he actually ever back Mike off? As that big lunging left hook, Buster able to get noticed the right hand.
And I know Mike probably expected me to stand there and just wait to get hit. And once I was, moving around, giving him a little movement and fighting him, that in itself was a surprise.
Could you see surprise in his eyes?
That was the funny thing about, throughout the whole fight. I never seen, little caution or little fear in Mike, because each and every round he came out strong.
So you didn't read any of that?
No, not at all. I mean, he fought hard each and every round, and I would say like in the round to come in the 8th round, I was the one that kind of got out of the fight because I wanted to, not intentionally, but look at him and like, yeah, I'm here, and he's still in that fight mode, and that's why I got caught.
At the end of the first round, you were happy what you'd done so far.
Yeah, I was happy.
I don't blame you. We'll take a break. When we come back, round 2, Tyson Douglas, February 1990. Welcome again to Victory Yard and to the Mike Tyson-Buster Douglas fight from February 1990. I am joined by the party of the first part in that fight, Buster Douglas. Buster, you've gotten through the first round. How good did that feel?
It felt good. You know, that it's important to have a good first round, you know, especially in a major fight like that. And I felt very confident, and it just kept growing. It just kept growing until.
Did you see anything or feel anything that you thought would help you later in the fight?
No, I was just sticking to the program and working everything off of the jab. You know, and then as the fight goes on, you know, hopefully you start seeing more, but it's still early in the fight.
Well, show me. Let's take a look at round 2, Tyson against Douglas.
You know, the producer in the truck has told us that Tyson landed only 8 punches on the punch stat, threw only 13 punches in the first round, which is unusual. Mike Tyson in his traditional black trunks, James Buster Douglas in white, already has gone further than some of the opponents of Mike Tyson, namely the last opponent, Carl the Truth Williams, last July, was felled in the first round.
Hey, don't do that. Frank.
They mentioned that he landed only 8 punches in the first round, and he doesn't seem to be punching that much here. You're doing most of the punching.
Right.
Did that surprise you?
Well, you know, Mike has a tendency to just decide on, you know, kind of caught him, you know, sleep where he was meaning that, you know, he's, you know, just waiting. He land one big shot, and, you know, as the fight goes on, he's starting to see that he's into a little more than he thought he was going to be into.
And you don't look at all flustered. You aren't.
I'm just working off just boxing. I mean, you know, just getting my shots off. And that's one thing that, you know, Father always taught me, that, you know, you just got to let those hands go. You know, things that happen. You know, instead of like you see Mike just basically, you know, waiting for the one big shot. And, you know, this is what the game is all about. It's boxing. You know, it's not the biggest and the strongest that win. It's an art. You know, it's a craft, and you got to, you know, pick. You know, you can't just pick your shots. You know, you just got to throw until something opens up. And that's basically what I was doing throughout the fight.
By Douglas. Surprisingly, here in the second round, this is Douglas's round in the second. The first round probably would be scored more even by the judges because they wouldn't pick up immediately what Buster Douglas was doing. And we, of course, have the advantage of the fellas in the truck that have the punch stat information actually telling us that Mike Tyson only landed a few punches in the first round. But definitely Buster is winning the second round, which is very surprising. Of course, Mike at any time lands that big shot. And that's the exciting thing about the heavyweight division, because one punch can end it all, but certainly change the tide of the fight immediately. Right now, it's a better fight than we ever dreamed of here in Tokyo. But you still, as I said before, get the feeling, well, as Larry Rezadio says, hey, watch that head, Mike, when you come in. Said Larry Rezadio. He's the judge. We're actually talking about Octavio Miran. Oh, an uppercut got through that time by Buster. Look at this. Buster landing some shots here. Well, one thing for sure, he's come to fight.
Okay.
You know, I caught him with an uppercut just there that landed flush. You know, he may not have shown any signs that it was, you know, visible signs that it hurt him, but, you know, eventually as the fight goes on, you know, those shots catch up with you.
He's going to remember it.
Right. Well, it's just the effect from the shot. Maybe he's strong early, and then as the fight goes on, that same shot might have a different effect on him than it did in the first.
But at this point, he knows that you're not afraid. He knows that you're not intimidated. He's seen that now over those first 2 rounds. I mean, that must have an impact on him, as well as the punches you throw.
Well, it did throughout the fight, maybe say, but he fought a championship fight. You know, he didn't let that bother him, and he came out each and every round to get me. Because now, on the other hand, on my end of it, you know, I figured it'd be 4 or 5 rounds that you know, he'll just be, man, this ain't working. We can come back and do this another day. But, you know, Mike fought a championship fight. He fought a tremendous fight. He gave it all he had, you know, and that's what really surprised me about him, because, you know, I figured that once he got on the down, you know, things weren't going right for him, you know, that he wouldn't, you know, fight anymore. But, you know, he showed tremendous championship heart.
Let's look at the third round. Look at some of the highlights from the third round.
And Tyson's landed only 16. Oh, there's the left hook they get through. That's the first real telling blow by Mike Tyson. And now let's see if Buster can hang on and keep him off. Instead, it's Buster coming back. Mike paused and lunges.
At no point, though, did he acknowledge the fact that he was surprised by your lack of fear.
Right. You know,
I mean, certainly the crowd was surprised.
Well,
Those
the
of us
crowd
who
was pretty quiet. They couldn't believe what they were seeing, maybe, you know. But I felt good about what was going on, obviously.
Did that help, that it was a crowd that did not seem particularly bloodthirsty?
Well, you know, maybe the way the fight was going, I had taken them out of the fight, you know, because they were looking for something, you know, to just see Mike go out there and just throw these big shots and see me retreat and, you know, and just expect that eventually that he was going to catch up with me. But actually, I took the fight to Mike.
They expected an early evening.
Early evening, you know, and I think that's what maybe have gotten the crowd out of the fight, you know, because they were expecting something totally different than what they were seeing.
Did you talk to him at all during the fight?
No, you don't talk during a fight. You can liable to get your jaw broke.
How about it? Did he say anything?
No, he didn't.
He just stood there and fought.
Stood there and fought.
Welcome again to Victory Yard and to Buster Douglas's stunning victory over Mike Tyson in Tokyo in 1990. Buster, after 4 rounds, as much as we've seen so far, you know, you've proven a lot of things. You've proven you're not frightened. You've proven you belong in the ring there with Tyson. Have you hurt him at this point? Have you had much impact on him?
Well, if I had hurt him, it wasn't visible, you know, but I knew I was landing a lot of shots, and I was comfortable with that, you know, getting my shots off, getting the punches off and things, and, you know, I just continued to do that throughout the fight.
Your corner was encouraging you here, telling you that you were in command of the fight.
Right, they were very positive. They were telling me that, you know, I was well ahead in the fight and just keep doing what I was doing.
Was there anything special they wanted you to try?
No.
Just
stick to the game plan, was just getting off first. You know, just getting those punches off and letting them flow, and then the big shots will come.
Let's look at and listen to your corner between rounds 4 and round 5.
You gotta hold your concentration. Now you'll come back. Everything will be there. Everything will be there, champ. Come back, okay?
That's so important. You're so calm and collective in the corner. Everybody worked together so well.
Buster filled with confidence as we go to round number 5. You know, on my scorecard, I actually have Douglas winning 2, 3, and 4. And look at this. The first 2 big shots and 3 and 4 shots landed, and this is the 5th round, are landed by James Buster Douglas. Not intimidated at all. Now, you see what I mean about backing him off? This is the first guy I've seen that's been able to do this. As I say that, Mike comes right forward. The trouble with trying to analyze what Buster is doing now is I just have the feeling that Mike wants to drag this into some later rounds. But there was a real good right hand that landed off the hands of James Buster Douglas.
You think his eye was starting to hurt him?
Oh, definitely. You know, he's starting to feel it. We're going into the 5th round. And, you know, it was an accumulation of punches. So, you know, it's definitely going to start taking a toll. You know, you're going to start seeing some visible evidence that, you know, your punches are, you know, taking effect.
No.
You know, as the rounds go by, this guy is gaining more confidence.
Okay.
So Mike doesn't want to drag this thing any further than he really has to now. Mike never used to being hit as much as he's been hitting this fight. Oh, big right hand landed that time. Buster's, if 2, 3, or 4 is a question mark, he's winning the 5th round handily. You don't need to be a professional boxing judge at the midway point here, and even inside there he lands an uppercut. Mike lunging with the left hand.
With an individual like Mike Tyson, You know, mostly when you hurt a guy, that's when he's most dangerous. Because, you know, he's figuring that, well, if this is the end, then I'm going out with the gusto. And that's what Mike showed. He came back with a vengeance.
Green, every time they get any place near Mike, they just tied him up, and it made for a lackluster fight. Buster Douglas, for however long this goes, has come to fight. Buster's making a statement that at least he's not afraid of Mike Tyson.
You seemed so calm, almost casual there.
That was just the outside. That was the exterior. Inside is rage.
Real rage?
Rage. Because of how slighted I was and how I was looked at just basically a doormat, you know, in this fight. You know, just a little notching in one's belt. You know, I didn't take that too lightly. Again, you know, because of, you know, leading up to the fight.
But you took that rage out on him.
Exactly. I just turned all that negativeness into a positive, plus determined to, you know, succeed.
I mean, actually, when you threw a punch and landed a punch, would you say, that ought to show you?
Right.
I mean, to yourself?
And it's going to keep coming. You know, it was just an abundance of shots, you know, it was, you know, and once the fight was, like, getting into the later rounds, you know, it just picks up.
You see that they're working on his eye.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's swelling.
Right, you're starting to see some evidence of, you know, damage.
You look across the ring, you see that?
Mm-hmm.
And then what thoughts do you have?
Well, I just continue to do it because what I'm doing is working.
And to keep hammering at the same spot?
Well, not necessarily zeroing in on that, but just overall, you know, from the waist up, you know, you're vulnerable. So you just work from that standpoint. You just don't pick out a certain spot because that kind of takes you away from your fight plan. You know, it's boxing, you know, it's a lot of different attacks.
Let's take a look at that punch again. The right hand that snapped his head back, it seemed to have an effect on him, and it probably led to the treatment of his eye. There it is, right there.
Mm-hmm.
That was a nice combination. I mean, you got both eyes there.
Thank you.
When his head snapped back, could you see that? Could you feel that? Did it increase your confidence?
Well, you know, it just intensifies what you're doing. It's like, say, you know, you get a 3-punch combination off, then you want to come back. You know, it's working. You're starting to see what your game plan is starting to execute. So, you know, it's definitely a confidence builder. 5
rounds into the fight, you feel you have command of the fight at this point, or just that you're...
You know, I've never like felt that I was, you know, really he was getting ready to just give it up, you know, because he came out in each and every round. You know, I was always taught by my father to just, as long as he's standing, just continue to do what you got to do until there's nothing in front of you. Then you know, that's when you know you can relax and raise your hand.
We'll relax just for a moment to take a break and come back and watch Buster Douglas doing what he has to do. Welcome back to Victory Yard, one of the great upsets in boxing history, Buster Douglas's victory over Mike Tyson. We've gone through 5 rounds watching it together, Buster, and at this point, do you start to think about pacing yourself? Do you start to worry about fatigue, or do you think he's worrying more about that?
That's a good point. But in this fight, going into the 5th round, you know, you do a little systems check. You know, after coming out of that round, you know, just breathing was going well. Felt like I still had a lot of gas in my tank, and legs felt good. Overall, I felt really good.
That's nice. You actually take a breath and check your symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
And do you look over at him and try to figure out from his breath how he's feeling?
Yeah, you glance over, you know, and look and see. But, you know, if you don't see any like gestures, you really don't know. You know, it's just mainly that, you know, you check yourself and see that you can continue to do what you're doing.
But you know you've prepared yourself to go more than 5 rounds.
Exactly.
Is there a suspicion that maybe he hasn't, that this is, you know, uncharted territory for him?
Well, yeah, you know, which he really, going into the fight, he had very few vulnerable things in his arsenal. So only thing we could go on going into the fight is getting him into the later rounds, seeing if he trained really hard to where he could sustain, with this fierce attack that he puts on early in the fight.
At this point, have you felt any difference in his punches, in his style, in his movement?
No, at this point, it's still going. I'm still getting my shots off, trying to find a good shot to land. I don't know. I don't really say that it's, I'm starting to feel him, decrease.
It's safe to say that at this point, neither side is overconfident, though maybe one side's confidence is going up and the other one's coming down. Let's go to round 6, see what's happening here. And the crowd is chanting Buster.
Yeah, that's a group that I came with.
Are those your friends out there?
Those are my friends. Mm-hmm.
Did you hear it? Could you hear it in the ring?
Yeah. You can hear it. I also noticed how quiet it was throughout the fight as the fight was going on.
It's not like being in Zaire and hearing shouts of Ali, or Vegas, which is just outside of Zaire.
Rita and Uchea of Japan will do the official scoring, but a blind man can see certainly that Douglas is in command at this stage.
I was always trying to make some contact with him. Wasn't just letting him walk in without getting hit. Give him something to look out for.
He wasn't exactly running away from the punches either.
No.
I mean, were you surprised that he didn't move more?
No, but
that's his style.
Again, that's his style, and a lot of times, you're not going to see evidence of, your work until later on in the fight, and it's not, that's when you fall back on your experience, not to get excited about it, and just continue to work.
But in similar circumstances in earlier fights, you had gotten excited at times. Well, you hadn't done what you wanted to do.
Right, and that's all the learning experience. So you take that and you correct yourself and you come out and, again, that's coming up right, not coming up with a bunch of patsies, thinking everybody's going to be like that. And then all of a sudden, boom, you're into a fight and you don't know what to do. You haven't been there before.
See, again, I don't want to give you the false impression that Mike couldn't end this at any time because he still has thunder in both hands.
Tyson has the expectation that the opponent's supposed to go down.
Right, so he's gotten used to that. Now all of a sudden he's into a fight and he has to think, and it's maybe, new territory for him.
Right, and when he fights back, as he does here, and throws some punches and lands some punches, it's no shock to you because you expect that from him.
Right.
And this is when they separate the great champions from the guys who are around for a while, is how they face adversity. And Mike has got to rebound from this because certainly Buster's having a good time of it to this point. Whatever the case may be in the eventual outcome, this is turning into a terrific fight. And it's going to be a memorable one. Look at Buster with the movement. Mike continues to stay flat-footed, not showing a lot of boxing skills. We haven't seen any uppercuts from Mike. We haven't seen him dip down. And looking again, almost lethargic, looking to land the big blow, which he's thrown about 3 or 4 times in this fight. A couple have landed, but Buster's been able to gobble them up. See, that one just off. We're in the closing seconds now. This is the 6th round.
6 rounds out of the way, and again, even though you've trained to go the distance, 6 rounds against a man like Mike Tyson is considerable work. Do you feel any fatigue at this point?
No, not at all. I felt really good, and actually confidence has grown a little. Because, I'm still in there, and I've taken some good shots from him, and really haven't been hurt. So therefore, it's all positive.
Are you beginning to see any signs yet from him that he...
I noticed his eye was getting a little swollen, but other than that, it was just,
But he hides the mental state.
Yeah, he's a very tough competitor. And at this point in the fight for me is not to get careless and to think that, the fight is going to stay at this tempo. And that's one thing that, you have to continue, because things are going good for me. I mean, I'm in there, basically everything I'm doing is working, and not to fall asleep.
Does your corner remind you of that?
Well, they were just upbeat. They were coming back to the corner, embracing me like, man, you're doing it. Everything is going great.
So they were part of the group chanting Buster, too, in a different way.
Right.
Okay. Let's look at round 7, then. Back in 1990, Mike Tyson against Buster Douglas.
Just the right hand. Come on, why don't you do now, baby? Stay alert. It's your fight. Your show.
See, that's my uncle telling me to stay alert. See, you got to stay alert. Don't think he's giving up.
And you hear what he's saying. You hear it and it registers.
Because everybody's not just coming at me getting overwhelmed, and JD's talking, John's talking, or John Johnson's talking. Everybody's just taking their moments, you know, picking their spots, and that's a professional corner.
This is for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. Mike Tyson in the black trunks having a very tough time of it against James Buster.
Do you think Mike was getting sufficient help from his corner?
Well, I know all he's in trouble.
I think his corner's in trouble, too. If he's in trouble, the corner is.
Seeing, you know, he's coming out a little better in this round because he seemed to have a pretty good round the last round.
So you think his confidence is coming
right,
back?
and that's when I came back, and my uncle told me, you know, stay alert, you know, because he landed a few shots, you know, and it don't take much to turn a fight around, you know, and you see his attack is getting a little more aggressive now.
At this stage in the fight, I don't have Mike Tyson winning one round. I scored the last round even. I was stretching to score it even for that round, and I scored the first round even, but I scored 2, 3, 4, and 5, all in favor of Buster Douglas. Buster, one of the real nice guys in the boxing game, having the best night of his life. Mike, if he's not having an off night, he's not having a great night. He's not able to execute a lot of things. His hands aren't real busy. He's throwing a lot of wide punches, and every time, just like that time, you see that, a big shot being landed by James Buster Douglas. Tavio Moran. Again, you see the jab, holding Mike off. And more often than not, he's landed. Oh, look at this shot inside by Mike that time.
From outside the ring, I always thought it was more tiring, though, to be hit by punches than to throw them.
This is true. This is true.
Even I figured that out.
You're getting good at this, man. But no, you know, it's throwing punches is a lot easier than getting hit by them.
You definitely get the idea that Douglas is saying, hey, I can beat Tyson. He's not so tough. And when a fighter believes in himself and he's ahead on the scorecards, if he doesn't run out of gas, how dangerous can he be? I don't know. But I'll tell you one thing. There's the first, second up.
At this point, Amir, are you starting to think, I'm winning, I'm winning, I'm winning?
I felt good. I felt good. You know, it's just, you never know, as you've seen after the fight, but with the scorecards, you know, my father always said the best decision is a knockout, there's no doubt. You know, sometimes leaving it to the judges, you know, everybody sees a fight differently. You know, and obviously in this fight, those 3 judges saw it totally different. They watched a totally different fight.
And that is the end of round 7, and you're in good shape.
Yeah, and then my confidence starts growing a little bit.
For good reasons. We'll take a break now. When we return, it's time for round 8, Tyson Douglas in Tokyo. Welcome back to Victory Yard and one of the great upsets in boxing history, Buster Douglas's victory over Mike Tyson in 1990. We've gone through 7 rounds of the fight, 6 and 7. Tyson seems to be coming back to life. Are you worried at all?
No, actually, I felt very confident, you know, going into the 8th round. And I think I got a little too confident, you know, with, you know, wanting to, you know, look at him and see his reaction instead of just continuing to stay in my flow.
And you said before that your father had told you that the best decision is a knockout.
Right.
And the idea of a knockout obviously must have been in your head.
Well, yeah. You know, I like to get in there and get them over quick if possible. But, you know, if they don't come early, you still have to stay focused and just keep working until they do.
So, but your confidence was still there.
Oh, I had big confidence going into the 8th round.
Yeah.
You know, and I think I kind of got overconfident, you know, threw a little less punches in that round because I wanted to physically, just look at him and
measure.
And measure him. Well, just look at him and just to show, like, what do you think now? And I got an answer for that.
Okay, let's take a look at round number 8, which was not your best round in the fight.
No, I wouldn't say it was.
Again, he looks here like he's eager to fight.
Right, he comes out each and every round. I mean, trying to turn it up a notch.
And they're not exactly backing up.
No, I'm just not really, this is part of being alert. Started getting a little lackadaisical, thinking everything was going fine, which it was, but still you have to maintain, what's gotten you to this point.
Buster looking a little bit sloppy now. In the second, third, fourth, and fifth round, Buster able to back Mike off with that jab. And then
I stopped throwing punches. Notice how he walked in without even getting touched with a jab or a right hand. Starting to, getting a little lazy there.
It's emergency for Mike. I think his corner has told him enough that, you've given away a few rounds. They don't have the advantages that we have with the replays and the punch stats that's relayed to me, but by the same token, they've got two eyes and they can see that to this point in the fight, Buster Douglas is ahead. But in this 8th round, Buster's not the same guy he was in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and even into the 6th round. Mike trying to sustain what he did in the 7th here.
See, I think he landed more punches in this round than he had previous rounds.
26 punches through the first 6 or 7 rounds, and he's already throwing more punches than that, I think, in the 8th round. He's busier. And again, for about the 6th time, Octavio Moran warns the two fighters about the heads coming together. Neither fighter been down, neither fighter visibly shaken. Mike has puffiness by the left eye. Buster a little abrasion by his left eye. Wild with the left hand is Buster Douglas. Buster drops that big right hand, but Mike takes it on the glove, and he backs off Mike again with the left. Wild with the right hand is Buster. Buster trying to really work the left eye of Mike Tyson. See it right there, right on top of it, just as I say it. Wild with the right hand that time is Buster. Buster trying to finish this thing, and you get an idea Mike is trying to finish it as well. This has turned out to be a pretty good fight. And the fact of the matter is it's Buster that's making it the fight. Look at these shots landed by Buster Douglas. And if Buster was out of gas in the early going of this round, he's got it back together in the late portion here. Raising left hand, chopping right, misses. Uppercut landed by Mike Tyson. That's one of the few uppercuts he's landed in the fight. We've been looking for that all night. Oh, there's a nice uppercut that time. That drops Buster Douglas. The count's up to 2 and 3 and 4. His eyes from where I'm sitting look fairly clear. It's up to 7.
I wasn't incoherent at all.
Were you angry with yourself?
Yes. And I felt that, from being out of position caused that to happen. Like, I felt it, it was basically, I got hit in the chest, so it wasn't like...
The punch came up through the chest to the jaw?
Right. Well, he hit me flush on the chin, but I felt, it wasn't like, I was seriously hurt. I just felt that I was squared up on him, and he caught me, and knocked me off balance.
Something, a dumb mistake on your part?
Exactly. And that was the reaction from, when I was on the canvas.
And of course, there was later great controversy about how long could you have gotten up much earlier?
Yes, but again, being taught, you got 10 seconds and take the 8 count instead of jumping right up.
Sure.
Basically do a body check. Just see if, if you feel everything is still there. Like, if you don't feel half your body, then you are hurt.
There was no loss of
not at all.
Of anything.
No, had all my faculties in.
Let's take another look. I'm sure you don't want to take another look at that punch.
No, we could go past it.
Yeah,
you want to look at it again.
We'll take one more look at that punch, the one that knocked you down here in the 8th round.
It'll be an uppercut from Mike Tyson that eventually catches him, and there it is. Look at that. Just a clean...
It slides up your chest and squarely onto the chin.
Right on the chin. Hit him on the butt. Right there, the tide has just changed. Mike has gotten new wind, new life, and I have to come up with just the same.
How tough is that to do?
Well, you know, it's not really, you know, the way the fight was going and, you know, knowing, you know, not getting excited on my part, not getting excited about what just happened and get back to what had led me up to this point during the fight, which was, you know, staying focused and, you know, working off my jab and just staying busy instead of, you know, decreasing the punch output.
At the same time, I mean, you know you've done something sloppy and you've gotten yourself in trouble. Does it help you at all to know that you can take a punch that square and still get back up?
Oh, that's a motivating factor, but still, you know the tide is in his favor now. You know, the momentum has shifted now. You know he's going to come out with major intensity now.
Well, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll see this tide shift again. Must have been a lot of waves that day.
A lot of waves. Typhoon.
Welcome back to Victory Yard and to the Buster Douglas-Mike Tyson fight from February 1990. We're sitting watching the fight with Buster Douglas, which is a great way to watch the fight, except when you get punched, and then you wince here. You went down from that uppercut, a slightly long count, no Dempsey Tunney, but a slightly long count. Then you go back to your corner. How quickly did your head clear?
Well, again, I didn't feel any major effect from the punch itself. I thought it was basically, you know, I was off balance, and I felt I took it more in the chest, so I didn't really feel the punch itself.
So if there was any anger, it was with yourself. Do you then direct that at Tyson?
Well, you know, I know instantly that the fight has changed. I mean, he's going to come out, you know, with a vengeance now, and I just have to suck it up and be able to meet him with his force, you know, meet him in the center of the ring, because I know it's on now.
Let's take a look at how that strategy works in round 9, 1990, Tyson Douglas. He comes out as you expected.
The one important thing, you know, leading into the 9th round was after the 8th round. I came back to the corner, and, you know, they revived me. You know, I mean, they did a great job in the corner.
Tyson trying to end it with one big shot again. He's down, he comes with the uppercut. Somehow or other, Buster's throwing shots back. Look at this.
Is that the momentum change again?
Right. Well,
it's
just letting them know that, you know, that I'm still here. You know, because I knew I had to do something to let him know that he still has to respect me.
You're letting him know. Are you also letting yourself know?
Right. Well, you know, that's just something that, you know, just to let him know is the whole spectrum. Is to, you know, that I'm still dangerous, so don't just think I'm still feeling the effects from the knockdown, and that, you know, the fight is still on.
So the message came through to Tyson. Right, now we'll see it. Now we'll see it come through even clearer. We'll watch the rest of round 9, the rest of the fight.
Mike misses with that vicious left uppercut this time. We're in the 9th round, a place nobody expected us to be in. Look at these shots just loading up by Mike Tyson now.
Basically, we're just right there trading. You know, he still feels very confident. You know, his confidence is, you know, increased tremendously.
Despite your comeback.
Right, and I still have to stand in there and, you know, show him. You know, for me to start running around, the fight's over, because he's just going to, you know, catch 3 and 4 wins. You know, not a second win, but 3 and 4 wins. His confidence is just going to be off the hook. So I have to stand there and, you know, roll with the punches and show him that, you know, I'm still in the fight. And also the judges, you know, to show the judges that, you know, let's not get carried away. But obviously that didn't work.
It didn't, yeah. The judges were watching another fight.
Yeah, the judges already had the scorecards filled out or something. We wasn't expecting to work that night.
I haven't seen Buster do, certainly in the Tony Tucker fight when he got in trouble, he kind of, well, he folded up, there's no question about it. But Buster has something special going tonight. We're past the midway point in round 9, and I expected Mike. Look at this! Look at Buster coming back! Did he buckle the lights to Mike? I don't know, he got him again! Buster fights back strongly, landing some big shots! And now he can't get killers. Look at this! Who would ever have expected this? Hit around and not Buster would back it in. He comes back, showing the heart, the tremendous heart that we've seen sometimes in Lackey and others. Tonight, Buster's got the heart back. Wow! Mike now is the one that's hanging on the ropes. Without the ropes, Mike may have gone down as well. I haven't seen Mike in this kind of trouble before. Look at Mike actually grasping to hang on. Mike missing the shots. Buster loading up the shots now. A seesaw battle it's turned out to be.
Do you feel you're ready to take him now?
Well, I'm trying. I mean, I'm trying. He's taking some, you know, tremendous shots in there. And, you know, I tell you, he fought a great fight. I mean, he really gained my respect.
Even from watching his earlier fights, it was actually getting in the ring with him that showed you how good he was.
Right, getting in there and seeing, because you have questions, feeling, well, later in the fight, maybe, you know, he won't feel or be as intense, you know, because he's so used to going in there and, you know, getting guys out of there within 4 or 5 rounds and being on the down. You know, he showed a championship heart by being down, you know, really being blown out of a fight and still having a feverish pitch to come back.
How sturdy was his chin? How many good blows did it take?
Mike has a great chin, takes good shots, because, you know, I landed throughout the fight some good shots, and, you know, he took them and came back.
Let's look at some of those punches from that round, some of your better punches. This was a very, very strong round.
Landed to a 3. And look at this. Buster catches behind the head.
Yeah, and he took them and, you know.
And you were showing no signs of the knockdown from the previous round.
Right. I knew I had to come out big because of it. I know he was coming out big in that fight. I mean, in that 9th round, because of the knockdown.
It's easy to know it, but it's hard to do it.
Right, exactly. Putting it all together is another thing.
Is this, you know, this night, is this as well as you had ever fought?
You know, I just asked God to let me show that I indeed can fight. You know, just to show, just one time that, you know, that I belong in this professional fighting, you know, that I can do this. And I was blessed enough to get that.
We'll take a look at the proof in the 10th round after we pause for these messages. Welcome back to Victory Yard and to the 10th and final round of Tyson against Douglas, one of the great upsets in the history of sports. Let's get ready to tumble. That's what Mike Tyson does now. What did you think going into the 10th round? Did you think you had him here?
Well, I felt good about the 9th round, and it was just getting back on my program. I was satisfied that I had gotten back to where I had been earlier in the fight, and I was just going to continue it.
Was he showing signs that he was ready to be taken now?
Well, I knew I heard him a couple of times during the 9th round. You know, it was just turn up the volume.
Let's turn up the volume, turn up the picture. Let's look at round 10, Tyson Douglas, Tokyo 1990.
Oh, Mike tries to land a big right hand.
So he came out in that 10th round, strong.
This thing in the worst way. And according to my scorecard, he almost needs to. Let's see if Buster can sustain through the 10th round. Oh, right hand landed as the referee was breaking them. Mike misses the uppercut. Mike's left eye is really closing up now. As they take a look, I get a good shot. Well, you can't see it, but I can. And his eye is really...
What did you read in his body at this point?
Just continue to work. I think all I was doing was just working, man. You know, because I got caught trying to read his body, trying to, you know, look at it, you know, in the 8th round. So it was just back to business and, you know, just keep working.
He doesn't have good bounce in his knees. Buster's legs actually look fresher to me. See Mike the way he went back in his heels? Doesn't have the good balance. His legs together as Buster's landing these. Oh, nice uppercut by Buster Douglas. Look at this. He's knocked Mike Tyson down for the first time in his career. Mike Tyson hits the canvas. He's in big trouble. He may not be able to recover. It's up to 7 and 8. He's not going to make it. Unbelievable. Unbelievable! Unbelievable! Buster Douglas is the new heavyweight champion of the world! This has got to be, if not the, one of the biggest upsets in the history of boxing!
Even there, I mean, you obviously, you know, were not quite as exuberant as the people around you.
Right.
You were still...
Because I wasn't, I mean, you know, I was happy. I was really excited about it, but, you know...
It hadn't sunk in at that point.
A little bit of that, too. You know, I knew I just won a heavyweight championship. You know, I just defeated Mike Tyson, but, you know, I wasn't, you know, surprised, you know, because I felt that I just got my blessing. My blessing was answered, just to show that no matter you know, I spoke about this leading up to a fight with my friends, telling them that, you know, I just want to, no matter what happens in this fight, they're going to know that I can fight, that I definitely can fight.
And at this point, had you, you know, used all your energy? Did you let it all go then in that last round?
No, I just, you know, letting my shots go. It wasn't that I just loaded up, said, well, I'm just going to take him out in this round. I'm going to give it all I got. You know, I never fought like that. Well, I've never been in a position to fight like that.
Let's look again at the final flurry, at the final punches that ended Mike Tyson's reign as heavyweight champion.
Third jab, a glancing blow. Mike's legs weren't there at this stage, in my opinion. Still coming forward, and there is just a great uppercut. And it's that uppercut that had Mike back reeling, and then followed up by a real strong left hand.
And even then, after he went down, I felt that he was going to get up. But when I noticed searching around for his mouthpiece, I knew then that he was hurt.
You still thought he might get up from all that?
Right. Until I noticed that he was, you know, searching for that mouthpiece. And I knew then that it was over, that he was actually hurt. Because throughout the fight, Mike, you know, he was strong. I mean, he stood up and he fought like a champion. And, you know, we all in my camp thought that, you know, he'd get 4 or 5 rounds behind, you know, he's really getting popped on, that he would just, you know, like he would just give up.
What's the feeling when you realize he's not going to get up, when you realize it's over, when you realize, is there any sympathy for him? Is there exultation? I mean, is there an understanding, because you're a fighter yourself, of what he's going through?
Well, you know, the first thing was, you know, I just thank God that, you know, that he gave me the strength, and, you know, he was there with me, you know, throughout the fight. But, you know, it was a fight. You know, I knew Mike, I had gained a lot more respect for Mike after that fight.
Did you realize, you know, at that point that this was quite possibly the greatest upset in the history of sports?
No, I hadn't even.
Does it bother you that people refer to it as that?
No, it doesn't. You know, I just feel truly blessed that, you know, in my life, you know, all I wanted to do was leave a mark that, you know, that I was here. You know, and I was blessed enough to leave a mark that, you know, that I existed in this world, that I'm in, you know, the books. But that's about the extent of it.
You did that. Buster, I can't top what you said, and I certainly can't top what you did. We will take a break now. When we return, Jack Newfield will join us to help set Buster Douglas's victory over Mike Tyson to historical perspective. Welcome back to the Upsets edition of Friday Night at the Fights. And once again, Buster Douglas and I are joined by Jack Newfield, 2 of Don King's best friends at one time together. That's a wonderful thing to see. Start with you, Jack. Was his victory over Mike Tyson the biggest upset in the history of boxing?
I think it was. The odds, 47-1, certainly were the biggest disparity that I know about in gambling history, and the dramatic nature of the fight. Buster getting off the deck to knock out Tyson at a point where Tyson had been undefeated and considered invincible, and the shock that it sent through the world, not just the boxing world. I think it's the biggest upset that I remember in boxing.
When you look back at it, Buster, is it an upset now in your mind, or is it just, was it inevitable in your mind?
Well, it was an upset, but in my mind, it wasn't. It was just a fight, a big fight, heavyweight championship fight, but, you know, I didn't consider it an upset, you know, but it's where everybody looked at it.
How about in other sports? Has there been anything greater than this? I mean, we can think of various things extended over a long period of time. For instance, I mean, the Mets winning the pennant in 1969, nobody expected anybody to come close at the beginning of the year, or the Dodgers blowing the pennant in 1951 when they had a 13.5 game lead. But just one event in one moment, what would come close?
I think the only things that come close are Man of War losing his only race to upset, the Pirates beating the Yankees on Mazeroski's home run in 1960.
Our World Series in which the Yankees killed them in every game that the
Right.
Yankees won.
And the shot Joe Namath called, the 1969 Super Bowl game when the Jets beat the Colts, and Joe Namath guaranteed it and turned out to be vindicated.
Again, it's never an upset in the mind of the perpetrator, though no one has really spoken to upset about how he felt when he beat Man of War. Now, several years earlier, when young Cassius Clay defeated Sonny Liston, he was a 7-1, 8-1 underdog in that fight. Was that the biggest upset, Jack, in your mind before this one?
Probably, yes. Most people thought that Clay didn't have a chance.
Yeah. I would think certainly that would have been a bigger upset than Ali defeating Foreman in Zaire. I mean, they were both major upsets both times
Yes.
when he was very well. Now, do you remember the time of the Foreman-Ali fight, what your reaction was?
I wasn't surprised. I remember coming home from school, walking home from school with a buddy of mine, and we were talking about the fight, the day of the fight, and I was going with Ali, and I felt very confident that Ali was going to pull it out.
You were certainly in a minority. What made you think that?
Well, I just figured Ali would just frustrate him, confuse him with a lot of tactics, because he's been known to do that to fighters, get them out of their game. And, you know, that's basically what I judged it off of.
Is that what you have to do to pull off a great upset? Get your opponent off the game and also get him overconfident?
That's part of it, so that there's not the right preparation, the way I think Liston probably did not train the right way for who was then Cassius Clay. But it also takes character for the underdog to be able to be calm and poised enough to give his absolute best performance despite the pressure.
A surpassing performance, which we got that night from Buster Douglas. Buster, thank you very much for being with us. Jack, thank you for adding your expertise.